protagonist. Iska is a 16-year-old genius who became the youngest soldier in the Empire's history to attain the highest rank of Saint Disciple. But unlike other soldiers, he supports peace and humanity. In his kindness, he once freed a prisoner witch. For this crime, Iska has been suffering in jail for a year. Finally, he is set free on one condition. He has to capture the Ice Calamity Witch, the most powerful witch alive and the direct descendant of Nebula, a witch who spread calamity wherever she went. Iska reforms his unit with Miss, Neen and Jahin. They get ready for the mission together. They are passing through a forest when a sudden gust of wind turns over their van and a bunch of witches surround them from all sides. Neen uses weapons to fight while Iska is using his astral swords. After defeating the enemies, they encounter another powerful mage named Rin. She uses earth magic to create a huge monster. Iska decides to take the lead and pierces through the monster's body. Being the Saint Disciple, he owns astral swords and can fight like the witches. With a swift motion, he sticks Rin to the ground. Another girl suddenly walks toward them. She introduces herself as Princess Alice from Nebula's Sovereignty, also known as the Ice Calamity Witch. Just in mere seconds, she freezes her surroundings, including the nearby power reactor meant to keep witches away. Iska reveals his intentions to capture her, but she's not afraid and attacks him with magic. Iska receives some injuries and awakens his astral sword to attack back. Alice shields his attack with the Ice Blossom and asks him to give up. He declares that he won't give up until he ends the war. Alice gets shocked at his words and steps back. Her goals are also the same. She wants to unite the world and bring peace. Iska gets equally shocked. But before he can reply, Alice slips and falls down in his arms. Her veil is flown away and her beauty captivates him. She starts to panic and rushes away with Rin. A few days later, Miss gives Iska a ticket to watch an opera show and relax. He accepts, and while he's watching it, he notices a woman in front of him getting emotional and gives her his handkerchief. The lights turn on and the woman decides to give the handkerchief back, and when he looks at her face he sees the Ice Calamity Witch. After the show, Iska also runs into her at the restaurant. As there aren't many tables, they end up sharing one. After looking through the menu together, Iska and Alice realize that besides their life goals, they have the same taste in food. Afterward, Iska can't concentrate on training or sleep properly. His senior, Rissia, tells him to visit the art gallery in the Neutral City and relax. At the Neutral City, Iska meets Alice in the plaza. Even though they are enemies, they find a common ground in the Neutral City and go to the art gallery. As payback, she buys him a drink and he falls asleep on her shoulder. Iska reports to his superiors, and they tell him he can regain his previous status of Saint Disciple under the condition that he captures the Ice Calamity Witch. Iska later goes to a neutral city expecting to meet Alice again. This time Miss insists in coming with him. They all meet and walk out of the city to talk. Alice wants to know why Iska let go of a prisoner witch in the past. He had taken pity on the underage witch who had nothing to do with the war. Alice asks if he had a change of heart because 1 year ago he saved one witch but now he wants to capture her. Iska then reveals his intentions to capture her. He wants to use her as a hostage to convince Nebula to sign up for a peace treaty negotiation. His reply impresses Alice to the core and she offers him to serve her instead of the Empire. Before he can answer, the ground begins to shake. The Nebula's founder broke her seal and reveals herself to be alive after 100 years. She attacks them with explosive magic, destroying the terrain around. Alice starts to complain as she came here to settle her feelings with Iska and she doesn't want anyone to interrupt them. She calls out at the founder and enrages her. The founder throws a fire blast at Alice, but Rin takes it on herself. Iska takes out both his astral swords to fight. They are called the Crosswear, whose union caused the founder's seal to break. The founder uses some small attacks, but Iska and Alice join forces to parry them. The founder is astonished to see an astral mage and an Empire soldier caring for each other. Alice and Iska talk in synchronization. They believe that the founder may have led the astral mages 100 years ago, but in the urge of a peaceful world, such an insensitive witch is not needed. Nebula combines ice and earth magic to make a lion, but Alice freezes it with her magic. Alice uses her ice magic to attack Nebula, but the latter blocks it and counterattacks with dark flames, knocking Alice down. Iska runs forward while cutting through Nebula's magic and starts climbing up ice stairs made by Alice. Nebula takes advantage of the narrow stairs and attacks him with a magic ball, but Alice blocks it for Iska, allowing him to jump and cut Nebula's wings out, returning her back to her seal. Some days later, Iska's team is briefed on their next mission. A huge amount of astral power is concentrated at a point, forming a vortex, and that same vortex can be used to give birth to a powerful witch. Therefore, the Empire's defense force is forming a reinforcement group to destroy it. The mission is led by the 8th Saint disciple known as Nameless. He's a strict leader. When a few units go missing during the Vortex search, Nameless refuses to send a rescue squad. Iska can't stand it and requests him to find the missing soldiers. Miss speaks in favor as well, but Nameless still doesn't agree. The Empire is aware that the witches may appear as they're progressing on the astral base. Miss locates the vortex, but another unit led by Miss's old friend Nora suddenly appears. Miss hugs her right away, and Nora takes her hostage as she reveals that they're witches in disguise. Nora uses magic to electrocute Miss, but Nameless appears out of nowhere and kills the witches. Nora succeeds to run away while taking Miss with her. Nameless refuses to follow them and plans to blast the whole enemy base. Iska can't accept it and rushes to rescue their captain. Miss is taken to the astral base. Seeing her, Alice assumes that Iska must be nearby and she goes out to find him. She runs into Nameless instead, but he retreats after seeing her freezing everything around. Iska, on the other side, has reached the astral base where he gets attacked by Kissing, who thinks she killed him with an explosion. But Iska comes out from the explosion without any scratch on his body. Kissing uses her magic made of thorns, but Iska dodges them and uses his speed to attack and knocks her out. Miss comes running to him, and he suddenly moves when a masked guy tries to stab his back. The masked guy takes Kissing with him and kicks Miss into the vortex. Iska jumps after Miss and holds on to her. Alice also jumps into the vortex to save Iska, and uses her magic to take everyone out of there. They fly out on an ice rock, but the vortex energy throws them at different places. For the next few days, Iska is busy with his unit activities until his group is given a new mission. They must sneak into Nebulize and capture the Queen. However, Miss is feeling uncomfortable since the vortex incident. It turns out that she has been possessed by astral magic and has become a witch. Iska decides to calm her down by taking her to the neutral city and tells her they will hide that she became a witch. While Miss goes to buy food, Iska meets Alice. She tries to get closer to him, but Rin interrupts them. She offers Iska a spiked drink with a sleeping pill. She tells Alice to take Iska into custody. Before Alice can handle the situation, Miss finds them. Her astral power slightly awakes, but Alice easily stops her and walks away with Iska. Rin hadn't thought of the consequences, and now she doesn't have a plan. They can't take Iska to the palace, so they head towards the nearest astral territory, Alcatraz. It's also known as the prison sector. A demon named Salinger, who once beat the astral queen, is also imprisoned in Alcatraz. The emperor is informed about Iska's kidnapping, but he wants to use this chance to bring Salinger to their side. Risia provides Miss's unit with temporary astral crests to fake out being witches and sends them to rescue Iska. Meanwhile, Iska opens his eyes beside Alice. They stop at a hotel and he's kept with Rin. She wants to kill Iska while Alice is resting in another room. She doesn't want him to interrupt Alice's progress toward the throne and jumps on him with a knife. Fortunately, Alice catches her red-handed. She decides to keep guard on Iska by herself. Iska tells her that he doesn't discriminate against witches. For him, Alice is just a rival on the battlefield. Surprisingly, she feels glad to hear that, as she always wanted to be treated as an average person. Meanwhile, Raija convinces Salinger, who's in prison, to join forces against the Queen of Nebulize. Salinger accepts and creates a blast and escapes out of the prison. An emergency is alerted all around the sovereignty. Alice rushes out to save the Queen and leaves. Back in the prison, Miss and others have succeeded to escape and contact Iska on the phone. He's still handcuffed but notices Alice left the key in a handkerchief. Iska uncuffs himself and rushes to meet his companions. After meeting his friends, he rushes to the prison. Rin was there alone trying to deal with Salinger, who has killed numerous mages and captured their spirits to make himself stronger. Salinger is about to finish off Rin, but Iska arrives in time to stop him. Iska jumps forward expecting, but Salinger blocks the attack. Iska moves in again, but his swords cannot reach his enemy. Salinger decides to use his hidden technique and combines ice and fire to create an effective strike. Iska cuts through the ice, but the flames endure him completely. Salinger assumes that Iska is dead, but Iska used his white sword to replicate the ice to freeze himself and survive. Salinger gets enraged and creates a sandstorm to attack Iska with lightning, but Rin saves him with a golem. Salinger decides to finish her off first, but Alice arrives at the right time to freeze the lightning and save Rin. The battle continues. Salinger creates magical swords to attack, but Iska breaks them into pieces. The demon feels lucky to finally meet a rival worthy of him. He promises to return and falls into the prison pit. Sometime later, Iska and his unit go to Alsamira on vacation. While heading to the hotel, Iska runs into the little witch he saved before, Sisbel, who's also Alice's little sister, but she disappears before he can ask her anything. At night, Sisbel sneaks into his hotel room to meet him. Iska assumes Sisbel is an assassin and pins her down to the ground. Meanwhile, Alice searches Sisbel's room and finds an old newspaper with Iska's picture. Iska recognizes her and allows her to speak. She tells him she felt guilty for making him lose his status and invites him to join the nebulized sovereignty. Iska refuses, but Sisbel promises to come back again. Iska decides to change hotels, but Sisbel finds him anyway. She has the power to replay the past, which enables her to collect information easily. Sisbel introduces herself again to Iska and asks for his help to save the queen, as someone from the royal family is plotting a disaster to trigger a bigger war. Iska refuses Sisbel's request because he doesn't only want to stop the war, he wants to restore peace. Before he can talk further, the masked guy comes to arrest Sisbel for treason. She tries to run away, but a mechanical dragon lands in front of her to block her way. It's a robotic Empire soldier called Droid. Iska tries to run toward her, but the masked guy stands in his way and they engage in a fist fight. Iska's friends come over at the right time. Jaehin and Miss handle the masked lord while Neen helps Iska fight the droid. Iska cuts through a projectile shot at Sisbel and tries to slash the droid's head. It deals no damage and Iska is thrown away by its tail. Iska holds the droid until Neen captures and launches her projectiles at the droid and binds it in a flaming cage, but it breaks away easily. Sisbel can't stand back anymore and she creates a sandstorm to distract the droid. Iska takes this chance to attack at its core. He assumes that the monster is defeated, but the droid evolves into another form and captures Sisbel inside itself. Iska jumps on it, but droid starts to overpower him. Alice reaches at the right time and uses her magic to create distance between the two. As a pair, Iska and Alice run toward Droid. She restrains him with ice magic while using icicles to help Iska attack, but Droid frees itself and knocks him back. The pair runs again into the offensive while dodging and blocking the droid's attacks. Alice uses an ice wall to block attacks while Iska uses his sword to cast magic. Afterward, she creates several icicles. Iska replicates the technique with his sword and doubles the impact. The droid can't bear it and shatters down, saving Sisbel. Sisbel opens her eyes and once again requests Iska to be her knight, as she will be the successor of the throne.